Hi, welcome to ES346 Basic Thermodynamics. I'm Mark Peterson, Professor of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. This is section UX1, an online e-learning version of the course. The entire course will be delivered through Blackboard. That will be our portal. And so what I'd like to do in this welcome video is give you a quick tour of where everything is. You've obviously already logged into Blackboard, as that's where this welcome video is. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see all the various content areas. And so if the first link under announcements you'll see is the syllabus. This is the first thing I would recommend that you do. You can go ahead and read the syllabus online as HTML, or go ahead and download it and maybe print it off if you'd like as a PDF. So all the course policies are outlined in there, and so please make sure that's the first thing that you read. The next content area down says course content, and this is where the vast majority of the course is held. And so I'll go ahead and spend a little time discussing it. The course is broken up into 8 modules, and the 8 modules correspond with the 8 chapters of the textbook. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's the 8 module sections, as well as the 3 exams. And I'll mention the 3 exams here in just a moment, but first let me go ahead and mention the content areas. As I said, each module corresponds with a chapter. The chapter of the textbook we're using is Thermodynamics by Singal and Bowles. This is the 8th edition, but previous versions are fine as well. So here's a picture of the 7th edition. This one is perfectly applicable. This is the 6th edition as well. Any of those versions are just fine. You can find them fairly inexpensive used online, so you don't need to buy a brand new version of the textbook. All the homework problems and exams I'll be providing, so you don't need to worry about having a different version of the textbook. So let's go ahead and just dive right into Module 1 here, which corresponds to Chapter 1. This is where the content is. As I mentioned, there's a lot of videos, and they're hosted on YouTube, so you can go ahead and download those or watch them online. And there will be 1 or 2 homework problems associated with each subsection of the module. And so, for example, here is Homework 1.1. This is actually a practice homework. So if I go ahead and click on Homework 1.1, it'll go ahead and give me some instructions. It'll tell me I can take this homework, perform this homework multiple times, and I can also save it and come back later. So if I click OK and go ahead and look at my question, here's the first homework problem. It says a sphere has a radius of 6 inches and asks what the volume is in cubic inches. So in that box, I'll go ahead and type my answer. I don't go ahead and type in the units. The problems will always tell me the units. I just go ahead and type in my numeric answer, click Save and Submit, and go ahead and confirm that. After you do that, it'll give you some information, for example, of how long it took you to take that problem. If you go ahead and click OK, it'll go ahead and grade it for you. And if you look over on the right, it tells me that I got 0 out of 10 points, so I didn't get it correct. So maybe I would need to go back, find out where my mistake was, and then I can go ahead and reattempt that homework. But what I want to mention, so I'm going to go ahead and try to reattempt that homework, is that each time you redo it, the problems are going to be somewhat different. So now if I look at this homework problem, the question wording is the same. I have a sphere of a radius and asking for the volume, but now I see the radius was 2 inches, where in the previous problem it was 6. So each time you'll get a new homework problem when you're reattempting it with different numbers, and so your numeric answer is going to be somewhat different. As I said, you can go ahead and leave that and come back, and you will still get the same problem that you had the first time until you answer it. So go ahead and practice that with that first homework problem a few times, and you'll get a feeling for how it works. Let me also mention that there's sort of a plus minus 10% of variability in there, so you don't need to have your numeric answer absolutely correct, just fairly close. And so it would be a good thing as well with that first homework problem to kind of play around with that tolerance that there is. So if we scroll down a little bit more in the course content area, I see here's the first exam. First exam is going to cover modules 1 through 3, which corresponds with chapters 1 through 3. And then you'll see here there's 2 ways you can take the exam. You can take it synchronously, which was scheduled for Friday, June 19th from 4 to 5:30 p.m., or you can take it anytime you want on site at one of the testing centers, like eLearning Testing Center or any of their other approved testing centers. So here's some more information. If you go ahead and click on Exam 1, you get some more information. As I mentioned, on-site proctoring, you can do that at eLearning, and there's a website for scheduling it. You can also get more information about other exam locations if you're not in Fairbanks to go ahead and take your exams. You need to take your exams by a hard deadline of 5 p.m. on Monday, August 17th. That's the hard deadline for on-site exam taking for all 3 exams. Now the other option, if you don't want to go to the testing centers, you can do a synchronous video proctoring. This requires a high-speed video webcam, and when you do this, you will log into My Google Hangout at the scheduled time, which is Friday, June 19th, 4 to 5:30 p.m. For exam 1, you need to be alone. You can't be working with anybody else. The webcam needs to be able to show your workspace so that we can go ahead and see that you are indeed working alone, and you'll have an hour and a half. When you're done, you'll enter your numeric answers in the blackboard, similar to homework, but then you will also take high-resolution photographs of your work and then upload those to me, and that's what I will be able to use for grading, and therefore I'll be able to award some partial credit for it as well. There will be some technology verification sessions ahead of time before the scheduled time, so you can make sure that you do have the proper hardware that you have and that your internet link is good enough. And if you're unfamiliar with Google Hangouts, it gives you a chance to log in and make sure that everything's good. And I'll have a few of those technology verification sessions held before the first exam. You can mix and match too. You may want to do the first exam synchronously, take the second one on site, and maybe the third one synchronously, or vice versa. I don't care how you mix and match, but you can only take each exam one time. So you're going to take it exam 1 either on site or synchronously. Same thing with exam 2, either on site or synchronously. All right. So as I mentioned, let's go back to course content. There's the course content. There's the class is more or less broken into 3 parts. We'll go through 1 through 3, take an exam. Chapters 4 and 5, take an exam, and then 6, 7, and 8, and then we will do an exam. Let me just mention a couple of the other areas. If we go over onto the download section, there's just a few downloadable things here you might want. The first is a PDF version of the tables and conversion factors. This is what's found in the appendix of the textbook and also in the back cover. And you'll want to go ahead and use this for the exams. The exams are closed book, but everything you need will be on these conversion factors and these tables. So you can go ahead and download those and use those on the exam, or they'll be provided to you at the testing center. The other thing you can use is an approved equation sheet. I have the equation sheet here. You can download this as well. It's a 2-page equation sheet. It's a abbreviated version of all the equations that you need, but I can promise you it's everything that you need for the exams. It's a visual equation sheet, so if you go ahead and look at that, you'll see there's some pictures and mnemonics that will help you understand it. I'm going to go ahead and post a video that will explain how to use that equation sheet in a little bit more detail if that's not obvious. And then the third thing that's downloaded is a purely optional piece of software that comes with the textbook called EES or EASE. It stands for Equation Engineering Solver. This is purely optional, but it's a very useful piece of software for solving problems, in particular looking up table values, and it becomes very nice when you're trying to interpolate values. So UAF has a site license for it, and so if you want to install it, it's a piece of Windows software, but I found it runs just fine under Windows emulators like Wine on both Mac and Linux machines. So you go ahead and just run this installer, this .exe file, and then install this license file, and I've got the instructions there. It's a 2-step instructions. It's fairly simple. Another option is EES is now available as an Android app. It does cost $10 to do that. We don't have a license for the app, and so I've got a link here on Google Play to go ahead and install the Android app if you'd like to use that as well. But again, that's purely optional, but it's a nice piece of software, and I've got some videos sprinkled throughout the course that shows you ways to go ahead and use it. And there's also lots of good resources on YouTube on how to use EES software. Let me mention the next link down here, which is problem sessions. We're going to have a few synchronous problem sessions throughout the course. We'll probably be about 10. The first one is scheduled. We'll be covering material in Chapter 2 or Module 2, and you'll see here it's scheduled for Wednesday, June 5th at 5 p.m. This will use Blackboard Collaborate. So this is a Java-based plugin into Blackboard that you'll need to install. So if you go ahead and click on this link, you can log into this session and get the software that you need to run. It works good on Windows and Macintosh. And then there's also Blackboard Collaborate apps that are available for the iPad and Android, and they all work very well. So these, as I said, these problem sessions are purely optional. They'll be recorded and archived, so you can look at them ahead of time. But it's a good chance to give you the opportunity to ask me any questions that you want and just kind of reinforce some of the material that we've been discussing. And I try to kind of maybe show some other aspects of thermodynamics that you don't necessarily get out of the textbook. You can log into this session up to 15 minutes ahead of time and make sure that you've got the proper software installed. You don't need a webcam for the problem sessions. The only webcam that I'll be using will be mine. There will be a whiteboard, and then there'll be a chance for you to raise your hand and ask questions and a chat box. So I encourage you to at least attend the first problem session if you're able to, just to go ahead and introduce yourself and see how they work, and know that you have the resource to come in and ask me a question that way if you would like. The last link down here in the content area is the discussion board. And you'll see that it's broken down. There's a discussion board corresponding with each module. So if you have a question about the course content, I encourage you to go ahead and post the question here. That way my answers and your question will go ahead and benefit the entire class. There's also a general discussion if you feel like your question doesn't necessarily pertain to a particular chapter, but maybe just the course more in general. This is a great way to do it, as I said, because that way my answers can go ahead and be shared with the whole class. But you also can contact me. All those methods are available on the syllabus. If you go ahead and read that, you can either call me on the phone, send me an email at my UA account, use a Google Hangout on my UA account. Any of those are just fine. And I'll always get back to you within 24 hours, but usually within probably just a few hours, particularly if you're doing it on a digital. If you're giving me an instant message or an email, I can get back to you pretty quick. So, well, that's about it for a tour of the website. I encourage you to go ahead and start off by reading the syllabus and then start poking around and looking at the course content. The course is completely asynchronous, so there's nothing that would restrict you from completing the entire course tonight. If you want to pull an all-nighter and go through and complete all the homeworks for all 8 modules and stop by e-learning tomorrow and take all 3 exams, and then you would be done with the course. So there are hard deadlines for everything, but there's no penalty for completing the course early. So have a good time. I look forward to interacting with you throughout the semester, and good luck and have a good summer.